Thank you all for coming this morning. We're very grateful for you guys to be here with us, and obviously we've had a little different tone with some of the stuff we've done this morning. Some of you might have cringed at seeing Saturday Night Live associated with Sunday morning worship. Some of you might have enjoyed it. But what we wanted to do is really our heart as an arts ministry was just to be able to have fun worshiping our God. I think sometimes we can get so caught up into how we're supposed to do things. And we want to definitely worship God. We definitely want to honor Him. We definitely don't want to mock Him or not take Him for granted. But we want to be able to offer worship for Him wherever we go. We want to be able to honor Him with our lips, with our actions, with our laughter, with our tears. As you saw in that video that just played, there are so many different things that can happen that try to bombard us. That you can have this thing and you can have this gift, you can have this talent. You can see which after me during communion, you'll get to see Natalie and Jet, a mother and son, perform and sing a song honoring God during our communion. And that's a rare treat. So many things in this world look to tear us down. You have Nedra and Oscar and so many different people contributing. All the slides you saw is various artworks of Robin Horton. And you can find your different gifts, and so many people can try to tell you no, 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 no. For an artist, hearing no is almost a way of life. It's very degrading and very hard. We can all go through it. I think sometimes what we can learn from the entertainment industry is the fishbowl that it lives in. We all go through it in any industry. There's good, there's bad, there's highs, there's lows. But there's something about the heart when we're willing to be vulnerable. But the world has a lot of areas that it tries to take that away, and one way that it does is it teaches us that we need to wear masks. There are many kinds of masks that we put on. Some for fun, for parties. Some for an interview. You got to put on the right suit. You got to put on the right tie. Your LinkedIn's got to look the right way. But as you go through these various aspects of life, there's a challenge of the masks that we wear. As you go through and you think about it in your daily life, you go, well, I don't. How much time did you spend on your outfit? How much time did you make sure the kids look good? How many times were we in the airport? How many people did we argue with in the parking lot, like the video earlier? You can have all these different things that bombard us every step of the day. And every choice we make throughout our day is either a choice to put on a mask or to take one off. Every moment. When you interact with that cashier, when you get gas, when someone cuts you off on the road, when you get a call from your parents, when you get a call from your child, when your boss looks down on you, when you don't get the raise that you wanted, when that person that you were attracted to says, I'd like to just be friends. We have all these different things. There's tragedy, there's death, and there's the highs of success. But when we go through life, we have to identify what are these masks and how do they affect us? And really, what does the Bible have to teach us? Because identity is not something new. It's really popular in today's culture to talk about identity and are you with this group or you're not that group. Polarization, it's everywhere on Facebook. I'll pretend to be older than I am and say InstaChat and Snapgram, wherever you want in social media. And wherever you're out there, we're bombarded with messages of what you should be and to show me how good you are. Are you for the right team or the wrong team? Are you for the right president or the wrong president? Are you for the right side of the issue or the wrong side of the issue? And it's not enough for us just to disagree. We got to put on that mask and you've got to be and fit into a particular group. And that challenge can even exist in this room. The first area I'd like to look at are masks that define us. Probably there's a few masks out there that are very definable, but I think this one is very definable. What do we know about this person? He's a stormtrooper. We know his job. He's defined by his job, but we know nothing else about him. Everything in his life is he's to protect the empire. And we can all do that. Our career is one of the biggest definers, and living in West LA, one of the biggest temptations that you can have. Because keeping up with the Joneses, I don't know who the Joneses are, but they got a lot of money to live in West LA. It is very difficult to keep up with that, so we put these masks on. We sell the best version of ourselves. We want to be liked. We want to fit in. We want to belong. And so we can do it. I walk into my job. When I get ready to go to my job tomorrow morning, I'm going to want to make sure I've got the right outfit. What meetings do I have? What's going on? What message do I want to send? Even this morning getting ready. What mask do I put on? What suit? What sport coat? How loud am I going to get with my sport coat today? Some of you know my sport coats. Know this might be subtle for me. But it's, you go through those different decisions, and we get bombarded with these choices every day. But in 1 John, the letter gives us a reminder that I think is very pertinent for our conversation today. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and pride in possessions, is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires. But whoever does the will of God abides forever. Legacy is a big thing that people strive for a lot of time in the mask that we put on. How big a church building do we want to have? What kind of effort do we want to have? Working in the entertainment industry, I have the very good fortune of working for Netflix. And we put out big campaigns. The Emmys are coming up. And we will spend a good chunk of change trying to help artists win an award. Does that help viewership? Does it help subscriptions? Not, maybe, maybe not, but not really. Why would we do something like that? It's nice to win awards. It's a mask. We get to show how good we are. Directors, writers, artists, we all desire that. We all desire that adulation. So we put on the best version of ourselves. So whether it's your career, whether it's beauty. Most men probably in here haven't had this challenge, but a lot of women, the pressure is, do these pants make me look good? Do they not? Do I wear this? Do I wear that? I can't afford Air Jordan, so I buy Pumas. You've been shopping at Ross again, haven't you? But we all do that. We can do that in these different ways. We all can look to the things of the world, to the adulation of the world. We can look for the creme de la creme. We can look for what's good. Do I want the A? Do I want the good grades? Do I go to the right college? Do I get the right job? Do I marry the right person? Do I have the right children? What is the image I want to tell the world? What does my Facebook say? What do people know about me? Rarely do we talk about removing that mask to focus on the will of God. We can get so caught up in all this time lost. And all these things, and some of these things are important. You want to be good at your job. We want to look our best. I want to encourage my girlfriend and let her know, hey, you look sharp today. We've got all these challenges and things in life that do matter. But do they matter when compared to the will of God? They are important. But when it becomes a mask is the issue. When it starts to define who you are you defined by your mask? Are you trying to be defined by your mask? I've heard it amongst even fellow members of our church over the years in different congregations. Let me get this level of success because then God can really use me. Is that really focused on the will of God, or is that focused on my will, and then I'll get around to the will of God? Because imagine, I win that Oscar, think of all the baptisms I could deliver. Makes the mistake that it's up to you. It puts on a mask that says, once I'm relevant and the things on the outside look good, then I can help you with the inside. It's a challenge. To drive this point home even further, Samuel said in the Old Testament, 1 Samuel 16:7, but the Lord said to Samuel, do not look on his appearance or on the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. And he's talking about a king of Israel. For the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. And this is an incredible part. These masks prevent us from being known. What you put on prevents the thing that you very want. We oftentimes put on these masks to fit in, to connect, so that others say that, come sit at our table, come hang out, come over to my home. The car we drive, the person we date, all these different things that we can choose sometimes are there meant for connection, but they actually prevent what we really want because they focus on the inside and not on the heart that really matters. It doesn't focus on what's there. And we've seen it time and time and time again in the Bible. We've seen this issue happen. And we can see it in a city, in the Western culture, in the Western world. And it's really, celebrity culture is really in virtually every culture around the world now. It takes on different forms in different countries. But it's become a very real thing. And that whole idea of you've got to look a certain way on camera, on stage, in front of people. We've turned Facebook and LinkedIn into a shadow of the realities because we're so focused on how we want to look to the public. We forget about just bearing who we are. And we project a false pride. We project a false image because we really forget that the heart is what matters. But there's a second kind of mask that I want to look at today. And those of you guys might recognize this from The Wizard of Oz. And these are the masks that hide us. In The Wizard of Oz, the wizard didn't think much of himself, so he projected this image out there and he hid, because if people really knew who he was, what would we think? Short little old man, not a lot of whatever, not much. And we can all go through that. It's in popular culture today, it's referred to as imposter syndrome. We get very insecure about what's going on inside our hearts. And we go, if they find out who I really am, I've got to look good, I've got to say the right thing, I've got to be the right way. Because if they knew who I really was, they wouldn't like me or accept me. If God really understood my heart, he couldn't forgive me. If my boss really knew how long I took for lunch, I wouldn't have a job. But we can have these different images that we can put out there, and that we start to try to find and create an image to hide ourselves. Or, even worse, we're so insecure, we don't recognize the image that we really have because we are so insecure on the inside. Because we spent so much time focusing on the outside, we forget who God actually created. We can be afraid. What if people find out who I am? What if people find out the worst things about me? What if? An incident like this happened in the Gospels. In John 8, verses 3 and 4, the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and placing her in the midst, they said to him, "Teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery." I don't know about you, but I don't think anybody right now, if all of a sudden I said, put you on blast in front of everyone out here. Ken Chow's not here. I'll pick on him so he can look at it later. And if I said, "Ken, you like the San Francisco Giants, how dare you?" And I put him on blast in front of everyone. Now we can laugh a sports team. But how would that feel if we put our biggest sin out there? It's what we fear so many times. I've got to keep the image up. I've got to keep the charade up. I've got to keep the false front up because I don't have time to be vulnerable. I don't have time to be real. I don't have time because there's too much at stake. I can't afford it. My whole world will collapse if you see. And for this woman, in this society, not much worse she could do. To be caught in adultery in a very male-driven, patriarchal society. They were slaves, so they had very little control over the rest of the part of their lives, so they over-focused on things like these. They were looking for Jesus to say that she should die. I'll put her on blast. This is who she is. This is what she gets. You going to do it, Jesus? And what we fear is that, but we know that as we read on in that story, it's not what Jesus did. He related to her. He called out the rest of the group. He made a connection. But what motivated that connection? The psalmist here writes, "I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance, and your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them." God knew from the beginning of time what you would do and where you would be and what would bring you to these chairs today. God knew what would put you in that seat. God knew what you would be. He knew all of the secrets you don't want anyone to know, and he still sent his son to die for you. He knew all of this before you were born. He knew the creation that he gave us. There is a confidence that we should be able to derive from that, to be able to let go and to be able to drop who we are and to be able to drop our our mask, to be able to drop our pride, to be able to drop our insecurity, and just be vulnerable. I could tell you what cool job I have. I could tell you the amazing woman I get to date. I could tell you the fun and the ministry I get to help serve, and I could tell you all of these great things. And they are true, and they are part of the story, and I want to celebrate those things. But I also have to be willing to tell you that I struggle. I also have to be willing to tell you that I'm a divorced man from years ago that went through a lot of horrific things and committed horrific acts. I'm a sinful man who fell short and turned my back on God for years growing up. And I can still struggle from day to day. I can still have anger. I can still have temptation to want to hide. I can still be a coward. I can still want to kind of go and look good in front of people. But I've got to remember this. Do I praise him because I was fearfully and wonderfully made? Do I recognize the wonderful works that he's done? Does my soul know it? Not my head, not just my heart, but does my soul know it very well? Nothing's been hidden. Nothing was done in secret. The details that he went from the very beginning. You have been made in a way that I don't think we realize, and even in religious circles, we start to talk so much about changing and repenting and all these things that are very, 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 very important. But we can lose sight of how God created us. Who knows what these are? They are coffee beans. How many knew coffee is a fruit? Coffee is a fruit. Coffee is actually a cherry, and what's inside are 2 little beans. So it's part of the fruit group. But coffee, in its natural form, is perfect. It's perfect in its natural form and how it was created. And what coffee roasters attempt to do with coffee is to try to get in as little way as possible to the water, to the minerals that it introduces, to how it's grown, to how it's picked, to how it's stored, to how it's dried out, to how it's roasted. Every little detail is painstakingly taken care of because they know all they can do is ruin it. So every new thing that it's introduced to it makes it less and less strong, less and less quality, less and less impurities get in. It becomes less than what it was originally created. And we can be the same way. We were made in God's image, as Genesis made very clear to us and has been repeated through the scriptures many times. We were created in his own image, the image of God. Men and women, he created them both. You were created in this way, and you were created perfect. So when we say change, what we really should be doing is focusing on the healing and restoration to going back to what you originally created. What you need to change to is already within you. You were created by the living God. Oh, I'm not Jesus. Well, guess what? You're created in the image of the living God. So guess you're a lot closer than we like to admit sometimes. So when we always try to say, I don't know if I can change. I don't know if I can get there. I don't know if I can lose the weight. I don't know if I can get over my pride. I don't know if I can get over my fear, my anxiety, my shyness, my cockiness, my whatever. We can have all these different things that we can hold on to. We can have all these different aspects of life that we say, I don't know if I can overcome it. Yes, you can. Because it doesn't define you. Those are all masks. Your sin is a mask. Your identity is a mask. Your shortcomings are masks, and we just need to remove the mask. We need to be willing to let go and drop what is and recognize the living God, recognize who he is, recognize the love and compassion he has for you. So we celebrate with laughter. We celebrate with tears. We celebrate with being silly and joking and high-fiving and playing music and doing all these different aspects of life. Because of who God made us. One thing I appreciate about artists, almost to a default, is that artists oftentimes are relentlessly who they believe they were meant to be. Now, we can help them get to know God a little better sometimes. But there is an effort to dig deep and to search and to look within to find out who I am. And we can all ask that. But I'd like to encourage you to find out what that is. What is it that God made you and that perfection with which he made you? And that's not to be arrogant and go, yeah, I told you I was perfect. It's not to sit there and go, the old joke, I used to be conceited, but now I'm perfect. No. What it's meant to be is that you're created in the image of the living God, and every mask we put on is preventing others from seeing God. Every mask we put on or hide behind hides the face of the living God. It's who we are, it's what we are, it's how we were created, and we should embrace it. And our arts ministry has been talking a lot over the last several times about how do you stand out, how do you fit within. And one of the things that we've come to the conclusion is it's time to start telling our own story. I think we've allowed society to, and some earned and deserved, but we've allowed society to put masks on what Christianity is, on who God is, on what it looks like and what it acts like and what it sounds like and what it believes and who it does to and how unloving and how this and how that. It's time we start telling our own story. We start telling our story a lot more with every aspect of our life, and it starts with our individual story. Because your story is the story of God. Your story is how God came in and cured your heart. God had healed you despite your iniquity. He spared your life and saved your life despite the judgment due us. God is an amazing God. He's the creator of the universe. We want to honor him with every praise, with every effort, with every bite of food, with every song, with every tear. And there'll be plenty of both. But as we get ready to go towards heaven, as we start getting there, let us remember as we start to go after our life, as 1 Peter says, do not let your adorning be external. The braiding of your hair and the putting on of gold jewelry, or the clothing you wear, but let your adorning be the hidden person of the heart, with the imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which in God's sight is very precious. You are very precious. You are perfectly made. Every detail was spent to kind of guide you and help hold you are. So sing with everything that you have. Laugh with everything that you have. Be bold with everything that you have. Paint. Take pictures. Sing in the shower. Whatever it is you need to do to honor your God. Whatever it is to be who he created you to be. Let's drop the charade. Let's just be who we are. No matter gold watches or anything else, will all fade and go away. But the only way we can do that is if we listen to Jeremiah. When Jeremiah's cry to God was, heal me, Lord, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved. For you are the one I praise. You want to be healed? Get rid of your masks. You want to be healed? Be vulnerable in the way you've never have. You want to be healed? And I don't care if you're being introduced to God for the first time today or you've been worshiping God for 30 years. We've all got masks to let go of. We've all got to make decisions every day to face the mirror, our family, our friends, and everything around us. But God's healing can absolutely come. God's healing is absolutely there for you. And as we go before the cross to take communion right now, let us remember the sacrifice that was done for it. They waited for 1,500 to 2,000 years for that moment to come. And now 2,000 years later, we still get to honor that moment when he took that bread and he took that juice and he let us know the very special relationship he wanted to have for us by healing us, by curing us, by resurrecting our lives and allowing us to not have to be afraid of who we are or afraid of what other people think. Because the living God already knows, and he's still here to help you deal with it. I'm not promising you it won't be tough. I'm not promising you that it won't be a challenge, and there won't be a lot of tears along the way, but I do know it's worth it. And a short life that we get to have here is a great time to celebrate as we prepare, because this is just the pre-party. The real party's in heaven. Let's go before God. God, I just thank you for allowing us to come before you today. I pray that you allow us to be able to understand and not be and to be courageous before you and before the world. That you allow us to drop the mask that we try to define ourselves with or others try to define us. That we be confident in because of you. That we be willing to bear our heart and our soul before you, the living God, and before this world, knowing and unashamed of how much we love you, the living God. And God, I pray that you help us just continue to grow and serve and love. And as we take this communion, God, I pray that you find our sacrifice pleasing before you. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.